Hi guys! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope this video finds you well. I hope you are staying happy and healthy during this pandemic, washing your hands and wearing your mask. Do it. But today I was just scrolling through my phone and I came across this Reddit thread called Tales from the Front Desk, I believe. Hold up. Yeah, Tales from the Front Desk. And it's all just stories of people who worked in, the front desk for hotels, people who worked in like hostels, and other people who worked, just in the hospitality industry in general. And if you are one of those people, which I'm kind of thinking a lot of people who watch my channel are somehow involved in the hospitality industry, that's definitely a cool read if you're someone who's like into Reddit threads. Personally, I love them. But that kind of inspired today's video. I thought it would be fun to share some stories from when I used to work in hotels. If you've never watched any of my other videos, and you may not know this, but I did used to work for Marriott. I was an intern, and I did work for a Courtyard, which if you don't know, that's like the business-based hotel. It's like pretty much 90% business travelers, and obviously as an intern I was working during the summer, which is the slow season, so nothing like super crazy happened, but I do have a couple stories that I feel like would be entertaining to share and tell on here. So if you are interested in listening to some of those crazy stories, go ahead and keep watching and let's get into it. So the first story that I can remember, it was pretty early on to me working there, and at the time, like I said, I was new, so I didn't know the repeat guests that would come in, because there were like a lot of repeat guests that would come throughout the summer. So at the time I was working in our hotel's little cafe. We had a little bistro there, but during the evening it was not busy at all. Like I said, it was a business-based, pretty much hotel, so a lot of our guests would like come in the morning and like have breakfast, and then they'd go off to like their training or whatever they were staying at the hotel for, with like the local companies. I live in the Silicon Valley, so they would pretty much be in those trainings like all day, and then every once in a while it would be busy during the evening time, but especially during the week it was very rare that it was busy. So at the time I was hanging out with my friends who were working at the front desk and just helping out there, because I didn't want to just be standing around. I'd rather be helping out wherever I could. So I was just hanging out with my friends at the front desk, helping people check in, whatever. And this woman comes in, and she checks in no problem with one of my friends, and you could tell that she was a repeat guest. And the only thing I noticed about her, like, right off the bat was that she seemed, like, kind of intoxicated, which, the only thing I was thinking was, like, man, I hope you weren't driving, like, I hope you got dropped off here or something. But she, just checked in, went to her room, whatever, and then about an hour later, she comes to the bistro, so I walk over there to go help her, and, like I said, she seems, like, kind of out of it, and she was like, hey, if I bought beer, like, can I just use your bottle opener? Like, I don't need to, like, buy beer, like, here, like, through you to be able to use the bottle opener, right? And I was like, no, like, you can go ahead and borrow it, whatever. She's like, can I take it to my room? And I was like, yeah, you could take it to your room. She's also not wearing shoes, which I was like, that's kind of nasty, but whatever. I was like, you can take it to your room, like, please just bring it back, within a certain amount of time, like, don't keep it with you, basically. She was like, okay. And you could also tell that, like, her hair was, like, kind of messed up, too. I was like, I have no idea what you're doing, but I hope you're good. And then, that was the end of that interaction. She goes back to her room, and I go back with my friends at the front desk, and I was like, hey, like, is that girl good? She seems kind of out of it, she's not wearing shoes, she kind of looks like, not completely right. And they're like, Julia, she's actually an adult worker. And I was like, what? I was like kind of shocked by that. And I was like, how do you know? they're like, oh, she comes and she checks in, like, very often. And you'll see, like, by the end of the shift, like, you know, people come and go from that room. And I guess I was more just shocked by that because, like I said, this was, like, a business hotel. And I guess I was surprised that she would pick, like, a courtyard to, like, you know, run her business in. And I was like, well, do we never investigate it? And they were like, well, she's not bothering anyone. She's not, like, disturbing other guests. Like, you know, we can't necessarily prove it. You know, who's to say that, like, we didn't actually investigate it? You know, I was just an intern at the time. I don't really know what came of that, if they ever did or not, but I was just kind of surprised by that. But honestly, by the end of my shift, I was working until, like, 11, I believe, and there was, like, 3 people that, like, just came in, like, didn't stop by the front desk, didn't check in, didn't do nothing, just, like, headed straight for the direction of that room. You know, honestly not sure if they went to that room or not. Can't prove it, just speculation. But, yeah, I was surprised that there was just an adult worker staying at the hotel, which, like I said, absolutely no shade to adult workers whatsoever. I was just surprised that she was staying at a courtyard hotel. But adding on to that, I remember whenever she had checked out one time, one of my coworkers who was working in housekeeping found a crack pipe in that room. So, yeah. So the next story is about a time that, like I said, I was working in the bistro again, and I worked there, like, I would say, like, 3 times a week about, and the other times I'd be off, like, doing other things, you know, whatever my boss needed me for at the time. But like I said, this day I was working in the bistro, and I was working another evening shift. Like I said, they were not usually busy at all, and there would usually be about 2 of us working the evening shift. Just in case it was busy, we would have one person making all the bar drinks, and then one person making the food, and then, you know, we kind of, like, alternate who would, like, ring people up and whatever. So, it was me and my coworker, and it wasn't busy, and we were just talking. She apparently had been working there for, if I'm not mistaken, I think she said 8 years that she had been working there. So she had really seen, like, the hotel, like, transform. They had done, like, a lot of renovations and whatever. So we were just talking, and she was like, hey, I know it's not really busy right now, so I'm gonna go help out with housekeeping. And I was like, yeah, no problem, like, I'll pretty much just hold down the fort here. So she went off, whatever, and she comes back, like, about, like, 45 minutes later, and I was like, hey, how did it go? She's like, oh, dude, it was fine. You know, I did, like, 2 rooms or something like that. And she was like, but you'll never guess what I found. And I was like, what did you find? It's like, oh God, what now? And she was like, oh, I found, like, a needle in there, like a drug needle, without saying too much because I don't want my video to be taken down. And I was like, what? I was like, first the crack pipe, and now there's needles. What is going on in this hotel? I thought this was just for business people. I was like, oh my God. I mean, you never know what you're gonna find when you work in a hotel. So the third story takes place when I was working the evening shift at the bistro again. I think I'm noticing a pattern here now that I sit back and think about this, but this particular night I was working by myself. My coworker wasn't feeling well, or whatever the case may be. He wasn't there, and it was just me. And I'm thinking, you know, no problem. Like said, it's usually not busy during the evening, so I definitely think I'm able to handle this by myself. So about an hour into the shift, a group of like 10 people come in, and you could tell that they were business people because they were dressed in like business attire, and they were all from the same company, and it was about 10 people, and they sit down and they start ordering a bunch of wine. And I think they were just like, celebrating the end of their training or whatever they were staying at the hotel for. And they were just happy that it was over or whatever, and so they were celebrating. And they had ordered a specific type of red wine. I can't remember which one, but they ordered, I want to say like 3 or 4 bottles. And so I get the wine for them, I get all the glasses, and they're all set up at one table, right? And like 3 more people come to like order food at the same time. So at this point I'm like starting to feel overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, just trying to get everything done and get people moving. So I'm like making someone's order, and the guy who ordered all the wine comes up and he's like, hey, excuse me. And like I said, I was like making food, so I was like, I'll be right with you, sir, like I'm just trying to finish this order and then I'll be happy to help you as soon as I'm done. And we had a bell like in front of the register, and he like starts like pressing on it, like you could tell he's like kind of drunk at this point. And so I say again, I'll be right with you, I'm just finishing this order, whatever. And so I finally finish all my orders, and then I like go back to the front, and I'm like, oh, excuse me, sir, like I can help you now, whatever. And he goes and he says, oh, can I just get one more bottle of this wine? And I was like, let me check for you, because I believe like I gave you all the bottles that we had, but let me just double check. He was like, okay. So I check, and we had like none left, and at this time it was already pretty late into the evening, and my manager had gone home, and she was the only one that had the keys to access the like liquor inventory, because it was like on the opposite side of the hotel, which I would have had no problem going in there and like getting more, because I'm sure we had more, but at the time, like there was no way I could get those keys basically. So I go up to him and I'm like, we don't have any more of this wine, but let me check and see if I can go get more from the storage, and I'll be right back. So I go to the back, and my manager was gone. I asked if anyone else had like a copy of the key to be able to get that for me, and no one did. So I was like, great, now I'm gonna go have to deal with this guy, and I'm not in the mood, but whatever, let's just do it. So everyone who works like in customer service, like I'm sure a lot of people who watch my videos are somehow involved in the hospitality industry, so like when like you're about to get yelled at and there's nothing you can do, you just need to sit there and take it, and you're like, okay, whatever, let's just go and get it over with. So I go out there and I tell him that I don't have access to get him more wine. If he wants any other of our reds, like I'd be happy to get that for him. I could probably even get it like discounted for him for the inconvenience, whatever. And he, surprise, blows up on me, and like he was like seriously yelling at me. And I'm pretty good with being able to like take customer complaints and people yelling at me. I think anyone who works in hospitality has to have like, or customer service in general, like has to have like a pretty thick skin. But I was just like over it at this point. Like he was being rude, you could tell he was being drunk, he was like, talking out the side of his mouth, and I was just over it. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just sitting there taking it. But it was pretty bad. Like it was to the point where like the people who he was sitting with like would come up and like apologize like on his behalf. They're like, hey, like I don't mind getting another red, because he was the one who was paying for it. They're like, I don't mind any other reds, whatever, like said. And I was like, okay, whatever, like just figure out what you want, because I'm over this. So he goes and sits back down, and then someone else in his party comes up and like orders a different bottle of red wine, like I had literally suggested, and whatever. And then they stayed for another like hour and a half, and then everyone like left and started to go to their rooms, whatever. And then it was just him and who I presumed was his wife, maybe this person was not his wife or his girlfriend, you know, whatever. And all these people, I forgot to mention, they were like in their like 30s or 40s. And so the wife comes up to me and she's just like making sure that like their tab is completely paid out, you know, whatever. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. And then they start trying to like, you know, collect like their glasses and whatever. I was like, you can leave it, honestly, like I'll clean it up, you know, whatever. I was basically just trying to get them out of there because I was like annoyed and whatever. I was like, yeah, I'll clean it up, it's no big deal. And then the woman like leaves briefly. I'm not sure if she went to the bathroom or whatever. And the gentleman comes up to me and he apologizes to me, actually, which I was like, oh, okay, I can actually appreciate the fact that you're apologizing to me for like yelling at me or whatever. And then he invites me to come up to his room. And I was like, oh, no, thank you. Like, you know, have a good night, basically. Because I'm like, what am I supposed to say to this guy? You know, that is so weird and uncomfortable. And like, obviously you're drunk and it's whatever, but it's like, absolutely not. And then he puts his hands on the like counter and he asked me to come to his room again. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm just trying to like clean up and like go home. And then the woman comes back and I didn't like tell her anything, but she like takes him and they leave, whatever. I was like, dude, how bizarre, like what is going on? I was like, I'm never working a shift by myself ever again, absolutely not. But that's just one of the joys of being a woman and working in this industry, so whatever, just one of those things. But it's like, this is so bizarre. Like, I'm over this. Also, someone needs to escort me to my car because now I feel weird. Okay, sorry, I had to change the camera angle a little bit because my leg was falling asleep. But for the last story, I thought it'd be interesting to tell one that a professor of mine actually told me. So when I was in college, I took a class all about hotels, and this professor of mine was really an interesting guy. He had worked at a bunch of different hotels, and he like had a bunch of crazy stories and lived a really interesting life. And one story in particular I thought would be interesting to tell on here, because I know like my stories aren't like super crazy, but this one was definitely like a very tragic thing. Yeah, but without giving away too many details, basically my professor was working in an extended stay hotel, and you never really know like the type of people who are gonna come and stay at the hotel you work at. Like, maybe like someone's going through like a hard time and they're staying at this hotel, like financially, or maybe someone's like going through a divorce and they're staying at a hotel like temporarily, or someone's in between moves, or you know, whatever the case may be. Someone's there for work and they need to stay for a month or whatever. So yeah, like I said, he was working at an extended stay hotel, and this man in his 30s, he checks in, and you know, he presumably is just going to work every day, and he had been staying there for like 2 weeks at the time, and he was due to check out like in another week or something. So, you know, nothing crazy was happening. Like, they would see him leave and they would see him come back like on the cameras, and you know, whatever. And like I said, they just presumed he was going to work. So the day that he was supposed to check out, there was nothing. Like, he never came and he never checked out, and he never it had a do not disturb like sign on his door. So they knocked on the door and they didn't hear anything, and you know, they didn't want to just enter his room, I guess. I don't even know what year this took place, but yeah, like I said, they knocked on his door, didn't hear anything, and he didn't like come to check out. And I don't believe at the time they did like virtual checkouts, because I think this was kind of a while ago. So, you know, whatever. And then they had just automatically charged him for another day. And the next day, like I said, same thing, knocked on his door, and there was like no signs that he was like ready to check out, or like, like they didn't hear him in his room or whatever. So they like charged him for another day. And if you don't know this, you can have the police show up to your residence and perform what is called a wellness check on you. So like, you know, they have the like authority to enter like your home or whatever, just to like make sure that you're okay if someone is worried about you. So they ended up calling the police to perform one of these wellness checks. So they enter his room and find that he had overdosed. So that is it for this video. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to end it on such a sad and depressing note. Just goes to show you, you never know what type of crazy stuff you might run into working in hotels, or just, you know, crazy interactions you might have with people. Despite all of that, I would still recommend working in hotels. I had a really great time working there. I met a lot of great friends and came out with a lot of great stories and memories. But yeah, I think that is it for me. I'm gonna go ahead and go. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any recommendations on what you would like me to film, I've been having a lot of fun making these videos and would love to film more for you. So if you have any recommendations, leave them below. If not, yeah, I'm not sure what I'll film next, but yeah. I hope you guys are staying safe, wash your hands, wear your mask, and I hope you guys all have a great week. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.